StreamYard to make sure it goes live on the YouTube app when I see it. So it says live now, but I always give it a second. Let's see. Okay, yep, I see it. All right, guys, welcome to the NBA live stream. We are talking Game 4, and we are running it back with Mike again. Super excited for this showdown slate. And we're going to be talking Draftkings and a little bit of Fanduel as well. So, Mike, how are you doing? Are you ready for Game 4?
Yeah, I'm perfectly ready today. It's awesome. I'm excited to get the invite to come back, and thanks for everybody for having me back. And I'm glad I didn't ruin your show last time, so thanks for that.
No, I think it went really well. I think a lot of people like the back and forth. So happy to have you on again. Thanks for coming on again. I guess we can quickly kind of talk about our thoughts on Game 3 before we get into it. So Game 3 was a pretty decisive win for Milwaukee. They were, I think, 4.5 point favorites in that one. I think it's like the same in this game. It's still like 4.5 point favorites. The Bucks are. Now, do I think they come out and blow out the Suns again? No, I think the Suns put out a better effort. Now, a couple of things I want to mention for last game that were a little bit surprising. Number one was the Bobby Portis minutes. I don't think either of us expected that after what we saw in Game 2. And kind of my take for that is I think if the Bucks are playing from a lead, they can give more minutes to the bigs like Lopez, like a Bobby Portis. If they're playing from behind, kind of like they did in Game 1, Game 2, I think that's where they limit them and go small ball a little bit more. So I got to ask you about your take with Portis and his minutes, and what are you expecting for Game 4 for him? And kind of, I'm guessing you were surprised for his minutes as well from Game 3, right?
Yeah, I mean, the game started out like I thought. Phoenix came out pretty strong, and it was close. And then when they checked Portis in, I'm like, we made a mistake, because if he gets that minutes that early, typically he has a good run. So I was a little worried about it. I didn't think there was going to be any way that even having good utility plays or strong captain or MVP, there was going to be a way to cash. But thankfully it worked out. I thought Portis was a bolt of energy. And obviously he brought, the up-tempo-ness that Milwaukee needed as far as sustaining it. And I really thought that the game went how I envisioned until Ayton checked out in the second quarter. And then I think all the momentum went downhill, and Milwaukee was able to kind of go on a run, and it didn't matter when Ayton checked back in, because I think the momentum shifted in Milwaukee's favor.
Yeah, the Bucks definitely kind of pulled away there in the second quarter. We saw Giannis kind of taking over. We saw Middleton, Drew Holiday have much better games. In the third quarter, Holiday had that stretch where he hit like 3 threes in a matter of a couple of minutes. So if those two can come through for the Bucks again, I mean, they are a really solid team when Holiday and Middleton are performing well or just shooting, decently. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of crazy because we didn't expect, Cam Payne to get as much run, thinking, that he wouldn't have an opportunity because Chris Paul would do well and everything. So to see him get run and then Portis on the floor, those two plays in particular kind of hurt. Thankfully, Ayton being in foul trouble helped my boy Cam Johnson a little bit, so it was good to see him come through and help a lot of people out. So that was great.
Yeah, I was gonna say your boy played really well, Cam Johnson.
Hopefully, I listened to you on Jay Crowder, because listening to me it went well. So,
well, you did say foul trouble. It was just foul trouble on Ayton, not Jay Crowder.
Yeah, wrong guy, but you're right idea, I guess.
And those two, I think, will mainly be on Giannis again. So that you got to, that is got to be in the back of your mind when playing either a guy like Crowder or Ayton. There's definitely potential for Giannis foul trouble, because Giannis is going to post up a lot and, force a lot of fouls like we saw the last game. So yeah, that is a little bit of a risk for sure.
Excited to get into it. And, I think that DeAndre Ayton is going to have to be kind of aggressive like Giannis tonight and see if he can cause the referees to kind of make some questionable calls so he can get to the line too, especially after Monty Williams not calling the refs out, but calling them out.
Yeah, not calling them out, but definitely calling them out.
Yeah,
I was like, absolutely. All right. Yeah, yep. That didn't make a ton of sense. And plus, it's like they're hacking Giannis every time he gets down there. So
yeah, absolutely. But we see that with big guys. They they get hacked a lot. Some guys get the calls, some guys don't. So Giannis got the calls, and good for him. He made them. So home crowd was huge.
I got to say too, my Ayton fade was, I wasn't confident in it in the first half. I was like, I'm dead. But once he got in that foul trouble, I came right back to life. So That was not looking good early for me.
No, I thought the Ayton and the Booker fades were probably, the strongest plays of the night, and thankfully it worked out for us. But I'll tell you, I was a little bit nervous at the beginning. So, Ayton can easily get hot. I mean, we've seen that plenty of times. So I'm looking forward to see how it all plays out tonight and ready to break the slate down with you.
Yeah. I guess one more thing too was we were both, kind of on that Booker fade last time. That worked out. Now, I can't say I expected him to get benched in the fourth quarter, but the game was kind of out of hand at that point, so that's why we saw a lot more campaign minutes. So got a little bit of lucky there, but yeah, Booker definitely struggled from the field. I think he was 3 or 14, and again, the game was kind of out of hand then.
My thought on it was, I said before the game that I thought he looked gassed the last game because he's been playing a ton of minutes.
Yeah,
and clearly his legs weren't under him because his jump shot was terrible. And I thought once he went to the bench, it was a little bit of, hey, you're playing bad, but I think it's a little bit, hey, let's get this guy rest if the game's out of hand. And they brought a couple of the other starters in, the fourth quarter to try to make a run. It didn't happen, but definitely a good fade for us. It worked out. Yeah,
for sure. All right, are you ready to talk about this game 4?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
So let's take a look at the Vegas odds really quick. Suns and Bucks, again, 221 over under, 4.5 point favorites. The Bucks are. I think it's pretty similar. I think it was a 220 over under in the same spread last game, so not much changes. Starters, I'm guessing same thing for both teams. I'm not really expecting any changes here. We don't have the starters yet, but I wouldn't expect any changes. So let's start off with the Phoenix Suns on DraftKings, and we'll talk about Fanduel as well, ask you about. So on DK, top 2 guards, once again, Devin Booker, Chris Paul. Devin Booker at 10.4, Chris Paul at 9.6K. So Devin Booker, $200 cheaper than last game, and Chris Paul, $200 cheaper as well. $800 difference between the two. For me, I'm once again going to give the edge to Chris Paul, and it's just because, as I always say with him, the floor of the peripheral stats. Now, he did have 0 rebounds. Normally, he's the guy that can get you, 3-4 rebounds, but it's the assists. He's going to get you close to double-digit assists, which gives him that floor. And as long as he doesn't have a horrible shooting night, he can have, again, 35-ish fancy point floor in competitive games, and obviously upside for 50 plus. So once again, I'm going to prefer Chris Paul over Booker. If we're talking, optimal build or even, just cash games. Now in tournaments, I personally don't hate going to Booker. I think he's definitely a contrarian play. He was about 35% owned in DraftKings that last slate. My guess is it's going to be lower after the last game, right? Because he shot 3 of 14. Recency bias usually affects it a little bit. So I think Booker will be pretty low owned. It's just hard for me to get to him when he's close in price or somewhat close in price. Yeah, basically the second highest guy on the slate. So I got to ask you on DraftKings take on, is your same take of you prefer Paul to Booker again?
Yeah, I think Paul is a great play today. I mean, he turned the ball over, unfortunately, 4 times. So he's got 10 turnovers in 2 games, which is unlike him. I don't know if he's a little bit rattled or, having Scott Foster there was a big deal or not. But I think Paul's the right play. But I do worry if the game at a quicker pace and it gets a little out of control. Campaign played well and he had a lot of energy. So maybe they try to see if they can create momentum and maybe bring back Chris Paul. If it doesn't work, maybe game 5, it sets up at home to, rest Chris Paul a little bit here if it doesn't work. But I think Chris Paul is definitely the better player today. The assists obviously are key, but Booker's been getting a little bit more peripherals. That being said, Booker is well rested. And I think, he's just one of those dudes that can light it up quick. And, if his shot's falling, I think it could be a big night for him. He's definitely going to be lower owned. Now, on FanDuel, they actually lowered Chris Paul's price. So they're both at 14K. Before, Chris Paul was 15K, so there was a little bit of a difference. And I still preferred Chris Paul last slate. I think this slate is setting up 2 different ways for me. I think the contrarian way is going to be to utilize Chris Paul and Devin Booker both. Because everybody, in my opinion, is going to lean more towards on FanDuel stacking Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, because obviously they were in the winning lineup last time, and their output is significantly greater combined based on the reliance that Milwaukee has on their starters to score. And I really, really believe that there's 2 ways to do it. One way, you stack Devin Booker and Chris Paul together, or a Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, or you go Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday. So it's going to be interesting.
Okay, so you're fine playing them both together on FanDuel?
On Fanduel, I am. Yeah, I think there's two different ways to do it, and I think that's one of them, that you could create a little bit of leverage on the field.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are going to do that because number one, we saw the Buck stack actually was the optimal. Now, I actually made a Fanduel lineup, and I did have that, the Giannis, Drew, Middleton, the top three guys. But I think since that worked out last game, that the Suns guys might be a little bit lower owned, and people are not going to want to play a ton of the top Suns guys. So I kind of agree. I don't mind that. I think that will make your lineup different because on FanDuel, again, it's always trickier to differentiate your lineup. Only 5 players, and most of the time we're going to be splitting with a ton of people.
Yeah, I think the winning lineup I think it was only like $600 or $700 last slate. So I cashed, but I wasn't close to the winner, obviously, because they had Portis and Campaign, so that didn't work out well. But
I was actually decently close. Now, I only played that big tournament. This is my first time playing FanDuel in forever, but I was like, you know what? Why not? We're talking FanDuel. I'll make a lineup. So my lineup last slate was I had Giannis in the captain, Middleton at star, Holiday at the pro, Crowder, and Connaughton. So I wasn't
no Cam Johnson.
No Cam Johnson.
Got it there for you.
I know. I was 295 was the winning lineup. I was 289, so I was only about 6 points.
You were there. Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of had the right idea.
Yeah.
All right. So
I think Chris Paul, for sure on DraftKings, and I think that Chris Paul would be my preference on FanDuel, but being at the same price, I think the ownership's going to be lower on Devin Booker tonight. So I could see going there over Chris Paul if you want to get leverage on the field.
Yeah, I like that take, definitely. Let's move on to the bigs for Phoenix. That's real quick, guys. Again, if you're just coming in, if you could leave a like button on the live stream. We're currently at 170 viewers. Again, every single like helps us out a ton, and make sure to follow Mike as well. I put his Twitter in the description below. All right, so let's talk about the bigs here for Phoenix. And DeAndre Ayton on DraftKings at 8.4K. I like this price a decent amount. Yeah. The price dropped on him. He was 9K last slate. Now he's only 8.4. He was on pace for a massive game. He was. If he didn't get into foul trouble, he probably would have been pushing 50 fantasy points. So now, will he be that productive again to start? Probably not, but I like that the price dropped. And if there's no foul trouble for him, we're going to get about 40 minutes. And number 2, obviously, Frank Kaminsky, he got some minutes, but he did not look good at all. He had some offensive fouls. It was a problem on the defensive end. So I think Ayton should play around 40 minutes here. He's probably going to get you a double-double. Obviously, can block some shots as well. I think he's a very safe play at this price. I think he's going to be popular, but I think it's for good reason. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about with him is potential for foul trouble and the fact that I think he's going to be pretty high owned. But other than that, I think Ayton is a really, really solid play. Now on FanDuel, he is at 13K. So what are your thoughts on Ayton on both DraftKings and FanDuel?
I mean, I like him on DraftKings a little bit better. FanDuel, I'm a little bit nervous because obviously the steals are a big part of FanDuel in the scoring system. And with him being in foul trouble early, I just worry that he's not going to be as aggressive. So if he's not getting those defensive stats, I don't really think there's a way that he's going to produce that of like a Chris Paul or a Devin Booker. Because he's going to get probably 10 boards, 15 boards, and have his normal 15 or 20 points. But without the steals and the blocks, I think it's a problem. So I'm a little bit hesitant to play him because of that, because I don't think he's going to want to be sitting on the bench like he was last game.
Okay. So you like him more on DraftKings than FanDuel. Are you fine using Ayton paired with one of those Phoenix guards together in the same lineup?
Yeah, I'm okay with like a Paul and Ayton because I think that's going to be a little bit different. Because again, I think that the Milwaukee guys are going to be the way to go, or the way that people think is going to work and win them a GPP. So I think having Ayton isn't a bad thing, but I don't know if it's going to be the optimal play.
And I prefer pairing Ayton with Chris Paul to Devin Booker because it's kind of like, I guess, stacking an NFL, the quarterback and wide receiver, because Chris Paul is going to throw a lot of lobs up to DeAndre Ayton. So you can maximize points by kind of pairing them together. You obviously will get, the Chris Paul assist, the DeAndre Ayton dunk. They'll do that a lot for sure. So, for me, I think I would rather stack Ayton with Chris Paul than stack him with Booker. And it's just because Paul is going to handle the ball a lot more.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's a great take.
Cool. All right, so let's move on now to the wings here for Phoenix. Bridges and Crowder. I really don't have a ton of interest in Bridges and DraftKings. I mean, it's just hard to get to 7.6K for him. He is too close in price for me, Ayton. Like, he's under $1,000, the difference between Ayton and Bridges. I have a really hard time getting to Mikal Bridges. Now, he had an awful game last game, only 9 fantasy points in 27 minutes. 2 games ago, he had that upside game. Again, he can go for 30 to 40 fantasy points, but it's pretty rare. I would say, maybe 5 to 10% of the time he can have one of those upside games. And the price went up. So I really have a hard time getting to Bridges. Once again, I would prefer Jay Crowder to Bridges. Crowder's gone for 30-plus fantasy points last couple of games. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he should play 35-plus minutes. They'll use him on defense at Giannis at times. So I do give the edge to Crowder over Bridges. However, I still don't love the price points on either of them on DraftKings. Like, I'm fine avoiding both on FanDuel. Let's see. So we have Bridges at 10K and Crowder at 9.5. So pretty similar pricing on FanDuel and DraftKings. Are you good getting to either of these Phoenix wings?
I don't think they're a must on DraftKings because I don't think you're going to want to do a mid-tier stack. I think it's going to be like the Star Scrubs again, as far as that goes. As far as Bridges, I think that, he got kind of hurt a little bit, in my opinion, by Ayton being off the floor. I think that actually hurts him because things aren't opened up enough for him to kind of get his own shots and get, wide open looks and stuff like that. But Bridges, he kind of reminds me of Miles Bridges too, on Charlotte. Like, he has like a good game every 8 or 9, and then like he just tails off for 5 or 6 games and just doesn't do anything. I can see, probably like 15 to 20 points tonight out of him. I don't think he's going to have a floor game and get 9 or 10, but I don't think it's 7,600 that it's worth hoping for a 30 or 40 point game tonight, because I don't see it happening.
Yeah, and we've seen low ownership from him last few games, and like, I think it's going to be the same. Like, he's been like hovering that 15% range. Even with the low ownership, it's still just not very appealing to me on the showdown slate. Like, I don't really want to get to him.
No, he just didn't look confident last game. That's a big part, is like just kind of watching the body language, and Phoenix as a whole, they just didn't really bring it. And, not being on their home court, I think, has a little bit to do with it. But I definitely think Milwaukee's going to come out with energy tonight. And if he doesn't have the energy to match it, I don't see him playing 35 minutes tonight, 35.
So would you prefer Crowder to Bridges?
I'm going to say yes, but this will be the game he has foul trouble. So I might be one game too late on that. But, I think, or one game too early. I think Crowder's a great play. 9,500 on FanDuel for me is – you can do it tonight. And then Crowder on DraftKings at 68. I don't like the price, and I don't think the optimal lineup will have him. But I mean, it's a good lever. It's not really a leverage play either, because there's going to be higher ownership on him after last game, and he's had 2 in a row that has been great. But for me, I won't have any Crowder if I put a lineup in with DraftKings. FanDuel, I'll have him.
Okay, so on DraftKings, I've been messing with some builds, and if I go with the, kind of the 3-star build where I only pick 3 of the top 6 guys and land on someone in the mid-range, the guy I'm getting to is Jay Crowder if I do go that route. And it's just because the mid-range is kind of gross. Again, you have Bridges, you have Crowder, you have Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, who we have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. So, like, if I do go that build and kind of go the 3 stars, maybe some upgraded value than one guy in the mid-range, the guy I'm looking to is a guy like Crowder. So I don't hate that build. I think it's a little bit safer. Obviously, you'll then be able to upgrade your value a little bit. So again, fine using them, but I think the upside play is still probably that 4-star build for me on DraftKings. All right.
With Crowder, the thing is he had a lot of 3-point opportunities because, number one, they were behind. Number two, he had a lot of open spacing. Bridges wasn't on the floor a lot of the time that he was on the floor, from what I've seen. And I just think that 3-ball, I think he made 6 3-pointers. On DraftKings, that's huge with bonuses and everything. I just don't see his shot falling that efficiently. He'll probably get, 9, 10 shots again, but I don't see him making that many. Yeah,
he's been streaky. I mean, we've seen it in the playoffs. He's been very, very up and down.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about these cheaper guys down in Phoenix. Cam Payne at 4.6. He got a big minutes bump up to 25. Honestly, I'm not expecting anywhere close to that again. We saw those big minutes because Devin Booker was benched in the fourth quarter, and also it was a blowout. So I think we go back to the 10 to 15-ish minutes off the bench for Cam Payne. Now, can he get it done in that time? It's possible. He has to be pretty productive. He is a decent point per minute guy, but I think I would rank him a little bit behind those other value plays. Those other value plays being Cam Johnson and then Connaughton and Tucker. So right now, Payne, nothing more than a contrarian play for me. Now, Cam Johnson, your boy, he got a price decrease actually from 4.6 to 3.8K. Not sure I agree with that.
No, I don't either. It doesn't make sense. I mean, I believe that he has, like I said last live stream, that I think the team has confidence in him, and it showed. I mean, he was on the floor 30 minutes. I was thinking 25, but I think the extra came a little bit from the foul trouble with everybody and Booker sitting and all that. So he had to be on the floor. I don't think he's going to get 30 minutes tonight, but his days of, like I told everybody on my Twitter, I don't think he's playing 15 to 20 minutes anymore. I think he's locked into 25, 30.
So you think those minutes are going to go up even without foul trouble?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to get 30 tonight, but the way that he played and the energy that he has and the confidence that he's kind of instilled in his teammates and his coaching staff, he's a big part of their success, in my opinion. And, I see about 25 minutes out of him.
Okay. Yeah. So do you prefer Cam Johnson to campaign then?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Any interest at all in campaign on either DraftKings or Fanduel?
The only way it's going to work on Fanduel, no. DraftKings, just the pricing and everything. If the pricing was a little bit lower, maybe. But I don't see him being on the floor enough to put up 10 shots. I know he only made 3 of them. I just don't see enough minutes out of him tonight. I think where last slate, he probably, I don't know what his ownership was on DraftKings, but I imagine the ownership wasn't up. I think tonight you're going to have higher ownership, and I just don't think it's worth playing unless you don't have that leverage.
Yeah, I'm same boat as you. I think he's just right now nothing more than contrarian play. Again, minutes, don't expect 25 again. Booker bench plus blowout. So I think we go back to the 10 to 15 minutes for campaign, which makes him hard to get to on the showdown.
Yeah.
All right, so a couple other really cheap guys I'll mention, and then we can move on to Milwaukee. So we have kind of this trio of Kaminsky, Torrey Craig, Abdul Nader. Basement dwellers here, really, really cheap. Kaminsky's at 2K. He played 14 minutes last game. I'm not sure he plays in this game. He is a decent point per minute guy in the offensive end, but again, got burned on the defensive end, and we had severe foul trouble for DeAndre Ayton. So Kaminsky, let's just say this, if I knew he was going to get similar minutes to last game of like 10 to 15, I would play him here because he's a really solid point per minute guy. But I think Phoenix's best chance is to go small with Ayton off the court. So I don't know if Kaminsky plays. I got to ask you, what are you thinking for his minutes tonight?
I think it's if Ayton isn't in foul trouble, I don't see a way that he plays. Like, I really don't, because they can just rotate, like the Cam Johnsons and stuff in and out of there. He's a liability on defense, and really, I don't think he's the best NBA basketball player, in my opinion. I mean, I think he might be a G leaguer. I know that's disrespectful, and I don't like doing that, but he can score some, but I think in the playoffs, it's not good. I just can't believe he was in the winning lineup. Like, I really don't. Like, that's wild.
Yeah, it's wild, but I mean, a lot of people went to Torrey Craig, myself including. Yeah. He just couldn't hit a shot to save his life, and Kaminsky got the garbage run. Again, when the minutes are there, like, he is, like, let's just say this: if I knew Kaminsky and Torrey Craig were going to play the exact same minutes, I would much rather play Kaminsky. But I think the reason we'll get to Torrey Craig, but the reason I still prefer Craig is I just think he plays more, and I think there's a chance Kaminsky gets a DNP.
Yeah, I agree. Kaminsky's, for me, I'm not touching him tonight just because it's a huge risk. And in the playoffs, I don't really want to chance it. I mean, yeah, we're technically gambling, but the thing is, I don't want to chance that in the variances on single game slates. I mean, you got to be right. And I want to have a guy that I'm confident that he's going to get minutes. I'm just not confident that he's going to get minutes tonight.
Yep. Same here. All right, real quick, before we talk about the rest of the cheap guys, Two God Blue with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, man. He said, Pat, I'm guessing that's Pat Connaughton or Cam. I'm guessing that's Cam Johnson for last piece in on DraftKings. Good question. I like them both for value. For me, it's going to be Pat Connaughton. I think he plays more. What do you think, Mike? Are you leaning Cam?
I mean, Cam Johnson, Pat Connaughton, it's close. I mean, that's a tough one. What's the price on Pat? I don't have the.
So I think he's 4.2.
Not a huge difference, a $400 difference.
Yeah, 4.2.
I'd lean Cam Johnson.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's briefly talk about these other two bench wings, Craig and Nader. Torrey Craig at 1.8. Once again, I'm fine going back to the ball. He saw 15 minutes. Probably, I'm thinking we get similar run. Now, he could not hit a shot. He was 1 of 5. Super frustrating. He had some open looks kind of in garbage time, missed a couple threes. Again, you're never going to get excited about Torrey Craig. He does have a low floor, but he's a guy that I do expect to play. And I think, 10 to 15 minutes is a fair guess. And he's really, really cheap. So could Torrey Craig come out and get 2 fancy points in 15 minutes again? Possible, yeah. But again, his price really didn't move, and he allows you to get 4 stars if that's the way you want to go. So he was about 30% on last slate. Again, I played him. A lot of the higher stakes guys played him as well. It didn't work out, but I'm still fine going back there, and it's just because he's a guy I expect on the court. On the other hand, with Abdul Nader, who got a little bit of run kind of there in garbage time, maybe there's a chance he cracks a rotation here. If Kaminsky gets a DNP, he's a little bit cheaper, but I think I prefer Craig to Nader. On Fanduel, I'm guessing these guys are all kind of close to the minimum price. Yeah, you got Kaminsky at 6.5, Craig 7K, and then Nader at the flat min. Do you have a take on Craig versus Nader?
I think Craig's the play over Nader. I don't think if the game is close, I don't think Nader sees the court at all. So Torrey Craig, do you think he looked healthy last game, or do you think there was he was a little bit gun shy because he didn't know if he trusted, his health? Or
maybe he didn't look 100%. I think he kind of got in his own head a little bit too after he had an unforced turnover and then missed a couple open shots.
And he started that way, and it just kind of was downhill from there. So I think he comes out, and if he makes 1 or 2 threes tonight, where he missed 4, I believe, or 3 or 4 the last slate. But if he comes out and he makes a shot or 2, he's already paid off more than what he did the last game. So I don't think he's going to get 3 fantasy points this time. I see more 10 to 12 tonight, and that could be enough at 1,800 because he's going to get run. I think you're going to see 15 minutes again. He's a big part of their lineup. He really is. They need defense, and he's always been a good defensive player, and he can hit that 3 too. So,
yep, that's exactly my thinking. It's like he's a good defender. They can use him at Giannis at times, and I think their best bet is to give Kaminsky a DNP and play a little bit more small. So maybe we see a couple extra minutes for a guy like Torrey Craig. So yeah, I'm fine going back there. Again, he was popular last slate, was a letdown, but it's what he allows you to get in really is why I have some interest in a guy like Torrey Craig. Are you good to move on to the Milwaukee Bucks now?
Yeah, just real quick. I don't think you're going to see, Craig get enough points on, Fanduel, because one of the things that I said the last room that we're on is with utility plays, in my opinion, you need 20 or more. And, that was true the last slate. So with Craig, if you get 12 or 15 out of him on Fanduel, will it be enough? How the utility guys are priced that you're going to want to get in, I don't think so. So I think he's a play on Draftkings. Fanduel, I wouldn't get to him.
Yeah, you're gonna need a really big ceiling game from him on Fanduel for him to be in the winning lineup for sure. Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Milwaukee Bucks. One more time, guys. I ask if you're just coming in, if you could leave a like button on the live stream. Let's try to aim for 100 likes on this, guys. We're at currently over 200 viewers, so appreciate everyone. Again, we'll get to questions after we go over the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's start off with Giannis Antetokounmpo, 12.2K here on DraftKings. He's gone for 71 and 69 fantasy points the last couple games, a 40 and 10 game each of those. He's been super aggressive on the offensive end, looks close to healthy. I'm thinking we get around 40 minutes from him. As I always say with Giannis Antetokounmpo, I think it's a really hard fade, even with the price going up a little bit. He's just a guy that is so productive, can stuff the stat sheet in every single way, can get you block, steals, assists, rebounds, score the ball. So I have a really hard time getting away from him. Optimal build, even for tournaments. He was close to 90% on last slate on DraftKings. I'm expecting similar ownership. Really, again, the only way I see him failing is you need something really weird to happen. You need him to aggravate the injury. You need him to get in severe foul trouble. As long as he stays out on the court and this game is competitive, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is in the winning lineup. So obviously like him a lot. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on him. On FanDuel, he is pricey as well, 16K. But I still think there's enough room to get him in there. So are you just kind of locking and loading Giannis, or are you willing to take a risk and maybe fade him in one lineup?
FanDuel, he's my MVP again. He's clearly the best player on the court. He's got a chip on his shoulder. He's out to prove that he deserves to be there and he deserves a ring. So I don't see any way that you can fade him. Do I think he's going to have another 70 fantasy point performance? It's possible. I don't think so. But even if he has, 55 or 60 point, he's still going to be the best player on the court. Nobody's going to come close. So DraftKings, I think, how the pricing is. I don't think he's a must at the captain tonight, because I think there's a few different ways that you can kind of leverage him out of there so you can fit, a little bit more trustworthy players in the utility spots. But I mean, he's going to be the optimal, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think once again, I'm looking to him for optimal build in the captain. Real quick, let's go over one super chat. Tori, again, thank you as always, coming in every single stream and supporting. Said, this is my dart. I'm just YOLOing in the millie. My main has Ayton captain, but here is the dart. Let's see. So it's got Giannis captain with Chris Paul, Holiday, Ayton, Teague, and Craig. No, I actually like that lineup a good amount. You have your Giannis in the captain. You still have 3 other stars with them. Now, if you do go that route, again, you're going to have to play 2 really cheap guys. And Teague, Craig, I've been messing with that build myself. I think it's actually a pretty decent build. You just got to hope, Teague and Craig can get you 5 to 10 fantasy points each. And I think you're looking good. So do you have thoughts on this one with Giannis and the captain?
Yeah, I mean, the second lineup looks fantastic. Jeff Teague would be the only guy that I'd kind of question. But he's been getting a lot of minutes, and he's been getting minutes over Forbes. So, yeah, I like that lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really solid, Tor. So let's talk about the other 2 here for Milwaukee, that being Middleton and Jrue Holiday. Again, as I always say with these 2, they're very up and down, but they both played well last game, and the Bucks blew them out. So Middleton was, our call last slate. He started off so strong, and then it was just super frustrating to watch that second half. He just barely did anything, kind of just let Giannis take over. Still finished with a solid 38 fantasy points, but he was on pace for a massive game if he would have kept that up like he did in the first half. He's 10K. Jrue Holiday's at 9.2K. Also had a good shooting game. Also had a good fantasy game at 45 fantasy points. Once again, I think both are solid plays. I think if we're talking optimal build, a small lean to Holiday for the discount. Again, with Jrue Holiday, he's always going to get you the floor of the peripheral stats, 13, 9, 9, 7, 9 assists. So he's right up there with Chris Paul, getting a close to double-digit assist every game. He's a good rebounder, too. We've seen 5, 5, 7, and 9 rebounds the last 4 games. So I do like Holiday, and I do like Middleton. For me, again, small lean to Holiday over Middleton for the discount, but I think both kind of come in at similar ownership, maybe around 50-ish% on Fanduel. Let's see. They are Middleton's at 13.5, Holiday's at 12K. So that's a pretty big gap there on Fanduel. I think I definitely would prefer Holiday for the discount over Middleton. But what is your take on Jrue and Middleton on both sites?
I think out of the both of them, they're obviously very similar in the ceilings they can get and the floors that they can have. I like Middleton again tonight. I think that he's gained momentum. I think he's playing well. He started off hot, and I was like, man, this is great. And then he ended up just losing a little bit to Holiday. But I think out of the 2 of them, if there's one guy that I'm nervous about tonight, kind of similar how I was Devin Booker last game, it would be Holiday. I have no issues or concerns about Middleton having a great game tonight. I think it's there for him. Holiday is the one guy that I'd have most concern about. On FanDuel, I'm going to play Holiday, but I'm more concerned about Holiday than I am Middleton.
Okay. So if they were both obviously you prefer Middleton for even though he's a little bit more expensive. I guess I was going to say, straight up. So if they were, you prefer Middleton point per dollar to Jrue on Draftkings, right?
Yeah, I do. I really believe that Phoenix is going to have a little bit more aggression when they come out tonight, and I think they're going to be playing a little bit more lockdown defense, and Booker's going to be engaged more tonight. I don't think you're going to see him in La La Land. So Jrue, in my opinion, could have a few extra turnovers tonight, and I think if his shot doesn't fall, we've seen it. I mean, we've seen at halftime that Jrue Holiday's had like 8-9 points before. Yeah, and I think tonight is a night that I'm a little bit concerned that's going to happen.
Okay. Now, again, we saw the Bucks, the top 3 being Giannis, Middleton, Holiday, be in the winning lineup. I believe on both sites. Are you fine going back there and kind of stacking the Bucks and maybe hoping they blow out the Suns again, or do you think they're going to be slightly over-owned because that was what worked out last game?
I can see it both ways, and I'm actually, I did 8 lineups, and I kind of had my player pool rotated last time for FanDuel, and I'm going to do the same tonight because I think there's 2 different ways that you go. I think you have Middleton and Holiday in your lineup with Giannis, and then the second way, having Giannis, but stacking the Phoenix players like a Booker and a Paul or a Paul and an Ayton. So my player pool is a little bit bigger than I normally would like, but it's simply for the fact that I'm trying to create leverage a little bit. But I'm fine going either way. I really am.
Okay. Cool. Let's touch on this super chat really quick, then we can move on. Patrick, thank you as always for coming in and supporting the live stream. He said, one of my lineups, Giannis captain with Ayton, Chris Paul, Cam, Patsy, and Tucker. Good luck, guys, and get that takedown tonight, Mike. So, again, thank you. And I think that lineup is decent. There's a few different ways you can go about it with that Giannis and the captain. You can go the Giannis and the captain, kind of the Tory route, where you play 3 other stars and then like 2 really cheap guys. Or you go this route where you pick Giannis, 2 other stars, and then you have a little bit more balance, but you have those upgraded value plays. So, my 3 favorite value plays he has in Cam Johnson, Pat Connaughton, and Tucker. Now, what that does is you kind of sacrifice getting that 4-star. And however, I think it might be a little bit safer. So I do like that lineup. Again, I think it's a little bit safer than Tory's. However, I think, if the value plays for Tory's lineup, right, those really cheap guys in Craig and Teague have decent games, then maybe that lineup is a little bit more upside. So what do you think on Patrick's lineup here?
Yeah, I think he suffers with the ceiling. I mean, he's a great supporter of ours, and we appreciate that, Patrick. So thank you. But yeah, his lineup is solid, and it's consistent, and it's something that, if everything works, he should cash no problem. But I just worry that the ceiling isn't enough for a takedown with that lineup.
Yeah, I think it's possible to get a takedown, but you need some pretty big games from all 3 of those value plays, like Cam, Patsy, Tucker, which, again, I think all 3, those are my 3 favorite value plays. Right. So safer for sure. And I think still has a chance for takedown, but you need some pretty big games from those value plays and kind of hope that the other stars you fade have, below average games, I guess.
I just worry about Tucker, especially if Porter's coming out Bobby Portis is coming out. I just worry that affects Tucker a little bit. So he's a guy that I'm not 100% on tonight.
Okay. Let's move on to the bigs really quick from Milwaukee. So Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis. Lopez 6'2", Bobby Portis at 5'4". Again, my concern with Brook Lopez is not the fact that he is a bad point per minute guy. He's actually a pretty solid point per minute guy. It's just the minutes. We only saw 21 minutes from him last game. I think we definitely get under 30. I think it's going to hover in that, probably mid-20s. I think it's a fair guess for minutes for Brook Lopez. And he struggled last game, only going for 15 fancy points. With him, the price went down a little bit, but he's going to need to be pretty productive to be in that winning lineup. Again, because I don't expect him to close. I don't expect big minutes from him. Now, Bobby Portis kind of surprised both of us from going from 5 to 18 minutes. I think my take is if the Bucks are playing from ahead, that he could play more minutes like we saw last game. If they fall behind like we saw in game 1 and game 2, they might limit his minutes a little bit because where Bobby Portis' liabilities on the defensive end. But again, if they're leading and he's producing the offensive end, they have more room to play him a little bit more, I think. So honestly, I don't love the price of either of these guys, being Lopez and Portis on DraftKings. I'm probably going to stay away from both. Portis, don't be surprised if he plays 5 minutes. Don't be surprised if he plays 18 again. Now, if I knew he's going to play close to 20 minutes again, I would have a lot more interest in Portis. He's a great point per minute guy. A guy I liked playing a lot in the Atlanta series, but that was because I was more confident with his minutes. We also had Giannis out again, so like that kind of solidified his minutes. But I just think there's a wide range of outcomes for Portis for minutes and production, right? It kind of depends on just how many minutes he plays. So what is your take on Lopez, Portis, and how many minutes do you think Bobby Portis plays today?
I was waiting to see the starting lineups, and they haven't come out yet. So I have an interesting take where it could be possible if they insert Portis in the starting rotation. And I say that because Lopez is a great offensive player, and if he comes out off the bench, it could have more of an advantage for the way that Milwaukee's game plan is. So if they get Portis going early, the energy, they'll be competing with Phoenix's energy in the beginning more, I think, with Portis than Lopez. So if he starts, it's an interesting play. If he doesn't start, I think he gets minutes. I don't think he's as productive if he doesn't start. So I think pay attention to the starting lineup. Okay,
yeah, that's definitely a hot take. I've not heard that, but could that happen? Possible. I don't expect him to start, but I think the issue just with these bigs is the defense, right? It's just the Suns can really cook these guys in the pick and roll. And that's why we've seen somewhat limited minutes from them the first 3 games in the series. So I just have a hard time getting to either of them, to be honest. But if I was going to roll the dice in one, I think it would be Portis and kind of just hope the minutes are there. But are you good to move on from the big?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just say this: Bobby Portis, if he starts or doesn't start, I'm still going to take the risk of having him as a utility play. That's my spoiler that I'm getting to. At 8K, I think it's worth it. And I think I'd rather take a risk on him than I would like a Frank Kaminsky, because I think the chances of him coming in and impacting the lineup or impacting the game is a lot greater than a guy like Kaminsky.
Wow, and I was just looking at the Fanduel pricing. Like Brook Lopez, 11K. Yeah. I mean, how do you get to that?
You can't.
Yeah. That's definitely a misprice. Way too pricey on FanDuel for sure. And I even think a little bit pricey on DraftKings. So let's talk about these value plays here from Milwaukee. I know I sound like a broken record, but once again, I really like Connaughton and Tucker for value. And it's just because their best lineup is with these two guys in it. Closing. It's going to be the top three guys with Connaughton and Tucker, that small ball lineup. We've seen 34, 30 minutes last couple games from Connaughton. We've seen 35 and 30. Now, PJ Tucker did get in foul trouble last game, so I think there's a chance he could have played a little bit more. Obviously, with both these guys, they're not super productive, but the minutes should be there. I'm expecting 30 to 35 again. Both can knock down some threes. Connaughton's at 4.2. Tucker's at 3.4K. I like both. I think you could play both together if you want to. Very, very high in both these guys. Safe value plays because of the minutes. Now, let's see. On FanDuel, we have Pat Connaughton at 8.5 and Tucker at 7.5. So do you have a lean there on FanDuel first, and then tell me your take on DraftKings?
Yeah, I think as far as FanDuel goes, I think Pat Connaughton is definitely in play. I mean, he didn't have to shoot as much the last game because the offense kind of ran through the starters and Bobby Portis, was the first guy off the bench. But I think he's going to have to shoot a little bit more tonight because I don't think that Holiday is going to be as aggressive offensively, or if he is, he's not going to really produce the way that he needs to. So I think they're going to rely on a guy that can shoot the ball and score. I like Connaughton actually on both sides.
Okay. What do you think about? Are you fine playing them both together though?
I'm not. I don't think you're going to get enough. Tucker, you're going to have a special game for Tucker to get over 20 fantasy points on FanDuel.
Okay. Yeah. I'm fine with fading Tucker again. I don't think he's a must play, but the positive with him is just the minutes, right? You're going to see some big minutes from him, and he can knock down some corner threes, right? That's where he's going to get you some fancy points, obviously some rebounds, maybe a block or a steal here. So I'm still good, going to Tucker. I think you can play both together. Like I said, I think they're very safe value plays. Let's talk about the really cheap guys, and then we can kind of go over roster construction on both sites. So Milwaukee, once again, Forbes, Teague, really cheap. These are two guys I expect to play. So Forbes at 2.4K has seen 6 and 4 minutes last couple of games. Jeff Teague has seen 12 and 14. Now Teague shot 0 of 4, did not play well, but still outproduced Forbes because of just the minutes. Once again, my take is going to be I prefer Teague to Forbes because I expect him to play more. I think we get around 10 minutes from Teague at 2.2K. He's a guy that, can knock down some shots. He'll play a little bit of the backup point guard. Forbes' minutes have just been slowly trending down from 12 to 6 to 4. So it's not a good sign. Again, I do still expect him to play a little bit. Now, if he comes out and nails first 3 or 2, maybe he plays a little bit more. I do think he might have a little bit more upside than Jeff Teague, but I'm worried about his minutes. So I'm going to give a small lean to Teague over Forbes. So obviously, both these guys are risky because you shouldn't expect big minutes from either. Do you still prefer Forbes to Teague, or are you leaning Teague now based on what we saw last game?
This was the game within the game for me last game because you and I were on the fence about both of them. And when Forbes had a steal, I was like, "Oh, sweet, we got a good point here." And then Teague came in, and he had a quick turnover. So I was getting ready to text you. I was like, it's all right. And then he bricked 2 threes. I'm like, yeah, it's over. So congratulations on the Teague lean. He definitely did better. I don't think either two of these matter as much. I mean, I think their prices are a little bit higher. And if you want to save money, I think we both kind of agree that Torrey Craig's probably the way to go there. But out of the two, I'd probably lean Teague, which means everybody should play Forbes. With Teague and Forbes, if you do go the Giannis and the captain route and then go, this on DraftKings and 3 other stars, you're going to be forced to probably play one of these guys with Torrey Craig. So I'm okay going that route. Again, don't expect big minutes, but same thing I'll say about Torrey Craig is what he allows you to get in. If you play a guy like Teague or Forbes, they allow you to get more stars in. So I'm good going to one of these guys. Again, I do prefer Teague because I think he plays more.
And then on Fanduel, I don't think either are really necessary, right? They're both cheap, but I just don't think it makes sense to get to them on a site like Fanduel.
I think with the roster construction, because we kind of went through, all Milwaukee players that really have legitimacy tonight. Mm-hmm. I think instead of maybe going one of Teague and Forbes and a Craig or like a Kaminsky, that you basically have to do that if you have Giannis as the captain. And I don't think that Giannis is 100% a lock at captain tonight. Like, I think there's other guys that you can get to. You save, quite a bit, 2,200 if you put Middleton there. Is that enough to get like Pat Connaughton over a Forbes or over, a Teague? It might be. But I don't think that Giannis, we'll see how this pans out, but I don't think that he's going to be the winning lineup tonight at captain.
So I think if, it kind of depends on, I guess, how the game flows. If he gets close to 70 fantasy points again, I'm guessing he's going to be in the winning lineup in the captain spot. You could still play Giannis in the captain and then go that little bit more balanced approach like we saw with Patrick's lineup where you pick, two other stars and then you get those upgraded value plays. I'm okay with that. You just kind of need that guy in the mid-range to come through. Yeah. And if I do go for someone in the mid-range, it probably is Crowder, but I don't love a lot of the guys in the mid-range. I think, my preferred build would kind of be more that stars and scrubs route.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. One guy at captain, because we kind of did this the last time. Yep. My lean was Lopez if I had a guy, and obviously that didn't go well. But the reason behind it was, the scoring that he brought to it. And I think it could have happened. Obviously didn't. I didn't play Lopez in any of my lineups, but I thought that was the one guy that could. And we were right there. We were the right salary. I mean, that was Portis, I think, was $200 or $300 less than him. I think tonight the one guy that could go off would be probably like a DeAndre Ayton at the captain. If you had an Ayton at the captain, you expect a double-double. And obviously the Draftkings, you get that bonus. And if you get like a 20-point game, 15-rebound game, and maybe, not as aggressively defense, but I think he still could have a block or one steal maybe. That could be enough to still fit like Giannis in there and fit like a Middleton in there and maybe a Paul.
Yeah, no, I'm very high in DeAndre Ayton. I'm good going to him in the captain spot too. Yep. Again, if you do go that route, you can get, an upgraded value play if you still are playing Giannis. So I think he's underpriced. Other guys I'm kind of considering for the captain spot, I think are those other Bucks, again, Middleton and Holiday. I think both play better at home. I think both come out, aggressive, kind of like they did last game. So if I wasn't going to play Giannis in the captain, I think I'd look to one of those guys or DeAndre Ayton, like you said. Do you have any other takes on captains besides DeAndre Ayton for DraftKings?
I mean, if there's one guy, that might work out in a good position, would be like a Cam Johnson. Is he going to save you enough where you can fit in? Because you want the guys that are going to create momentum. They're going to be on the floor for their energy, but for their production. And I don't see a way that he doesn't produce tonight. But I don't think having him at the captain spot is going to create enough to get you that winning score. But I mean, I think the one guy that I would put, in the mid range, kind of or lower than the top tier, would be Ayton. But the other guy, if I faded Giannis, would definitely be Middleton tonight at captain.
Okay.
But Ayton, I'm kind of going to for a couple of reasons. You and I love Bobby Portis all year. We were waiting for him to go off because we played him quite a few times, and he did well for us. Sometimes he didn't. Another guy besides Ja that we always went to was DeAndre Ayton. We always liked him, and we couldn't understand his price half the time. So tonight is a night where I think he's too cheap, and I think he's a good play.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great take. Again, I like Ayton a lot here. I think you can definitely play in the captain. Yeah. Now again, if you go like one of those cheaper guys, we talked about this last night. I just don't think it makes a ton of sense. You're gonna need a pretty big ceiling game. So if you go a guy like, let's just say Cam Johnson, the captain, and pick 4 other stars, you're still gonna be hovering in that one like really cheap guy or maybe a slightly upgraded value play. I just don't think it's worth it to do that. So I'm really focusing on those top, 6 guys and mainly Giannis, Middleton, Drew, and then DeAndre Ayton as the guys I'm looking to in the captain spot. Also, I guess Chris Paul too, I think is someone you can get to as well. I'm good going there. Obviously, he's the guy that can go out and get you 50 plus fantasy points if he's having a decent shooting game. So don't mind that as well.
We see a lot in the regular season that there's a lower guy that will end up being in the winning lineup, like a Cam Johnson per se. But that happens because a lot of the starters don't play as many minutes. We're in the playoffs where the starters are playing, 35, 40 minutes consistently, and they're not off the court. So that only works if the starters don't get full run and they don't produce great. So I don't think that's an option tonight.
Right. And plus, it's like, again, way more minutes for the starters. In the regular season, there was a lot more minutes for the bench guys, so it was possible.
Yep.
All right, let's go over one more super chat from Tori. Thank you. He said I would do another 10 spot for 100 likes. So appreciate the support again, Tori. Super generous of you, and thank you to everyone who came in and liked the live stream, guys. We'll be live for a little bit longer here. About to get some questions. Do you want to talk about Fanduel roster construction real quick, and then maybe we can get some questions?
Yeah, absolutely. With the Fanduel roster construction tonight, I think that Giannis is the number one play. Like I said last slate that he was the number one play. We all kind of agreed with that. Why he was the number one play is because there's nobody that can even come close to producing what he does. So it was an easier play. I think tonight it's the same story. But where we're going to have to get to tonight is the utility plays, because they're a little bit different. The price is up a little bit on some of the guys. So you have to be very, very selective in what you're doing for the stars and pros. So if you lock in Giannis, just kind of play with this a little bit.
Okay.
And then you because I always build from the bottom up. Like I'll do the MVP first, and then I'll kind of do the utility plays just to have confidence that I have the utility guys that I really, really think are going to produce well. Okay. So if you put like a Jay Crowder in the utility, and then put like a Bobby Portis in the utility. Like I got 3 utility guys that I'm rotating, and those are the 2 that I feel pretty strong about tonight based on their price and the opportunity that they have to do really well in the minutes that they do play. So what are we left with per player? We have 13,000 per player.
Yep.
Well, the way that this works out well is if like Drew Holiday does well, because he's priced pretty low. Ayton's priced low, Middleton's priced low. So I try to figure out star and pro who I think is going to be the second or third highest scorer on the slate. So Chris Paul, Booker, you can play one of those guys at star. Like you could do like a Chris Paul, and you could do an Ayton with this structure, right? You kind of agree that Ayton's going to have a good game. Chris Paul has an opportunity to have a good game. So that would work with these utility guys, and Giannis is, the MVP. I think that's going to be the contrarian way to go, because a lot of people are going to want to play, Middleton, Holiday, Giannis, and then they're fighting at the bottom for the utility plays like a PJ Tucker or a Torrey Craig or a Bobby Portis. I kind of am starting here and building from this way. I have one other utility play that I like, and it's in my write-up.
Okay.
But yeah, this is kind of how I'm starting and going about it. But I think there's a way that you can put Middleton and Drew with the star and pro, which a lot of people probably will. But my other take is playing some Phoenix guys.
Okay. I think that's an interesting way to go. Again, I don't mess with FanDuel too much, but
right.
I don't mind that, plugging in your MVP and then building kind of up from there. So
because if you go strong on the first 3, and then you're just kind of you're not giving yourself due diligence to put the best players in there, because you're just having all this confidence in the world that your first 3 are going to be great. And then you're just kind of putting in the utility plays like quickly, just like, oh, he should be all right. I think you need to think a little bit more about the utility plays that you play, kind of similar to Cam Johnson, the last slate. Like if you put a little bit more effort on the utility plays, it's going to open up things for you to have a better score, because you don't want to just fit somebody in because that's the price that you have left. You want to fit somebody in, because that they're going to do well, not just because that's what you left with price.
Okay. Now in FanDuel, are you okay using someone else in that MVP spot besides Giannis?
No.
Okay. So you wouldn't go. You would just go Giannis and kind of try to get different elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, utility plays are the way to get different, or going leverage by getting Phoenix guys. That's another way to get different. I think the only way that Giannis is not MVP tonight is if they blow Phoenix off the court or he gets hurt. Like he's going to be out there over 30 minutes, and even getting 30 minutes out of Giannis, you're not going to get a lot of people are going to come close to his output, because he does it all.
Now, I haven't messed with roster construction too much, but is it possible to get, 4 of the top 6 guys in there with Giannis, or is that not possible?
No, because you're not going to have enough. It's going to leave you like 5,500.
Middleton. 50. So you would just be what? Minimum price is $6K, right? Yeah, so you'd just be $500 short.
Yeah, they made it like that. It's interesting what they did with some of these guys, because you look at Paul, his price got lowered. You're like, oh man, this is going to open up a lot of things, and then wrong.
All right, so what about this? I know this is just getting I just like talking about every kind of getting really really different here and trying to get different at FanDuel. If you fade Giannis, you can get 4 stars in your lineup, right? There's a way that could work out, I think. If Giannis has a floor game, maybe 45 fancy points, 50 fancy points, and those other stars really, really play well. I'm thinking very outside of the box here, but if you're making a ton of lineups, would you be okay doing that in one lineup?
I mean, it's viable, but what you got to think is you're getting 2 times, right? So Giannis 2 times is huge. So you got to hope that one of the guys that you put there, number one, doesn't commit a lot of turnovers. So, obviously if you had Chris Paul the last 2 slates, that was a no-go already because all the turnovers he committed. You want one of these guys to score what Giannis would or a little bit more, and that's going to be tough because the difference that you're going to have by getting, another guy, I don't think it's going to swing it in your favor. So I'd be worried tonight if you put Drew Holiday in the MVP spot because I worry about the turnovers. I worry about the production. I think if you're going to put a guy there tonight to make it work, you're going to have to go probably lean to a Chris Paul because I don't see more turnovers coming from Paul tonight. And I think at $14K, that'll open up enough. I don't see anything less than Paul.
Okay. Cool.
I mean, maybe Middleton. Middleton's only $500 cheaper, but I feel like people would lean Middleton more than Paul. If you're going to do it, you got to do it to gain leverage. If you're going to do it, you don't want to go what everybody would do instead of Giannis.
All right, cool. Do you have anything else you want to mention on FanDuel, or do you want to get to some questions?
We'll do some questions. I just mentioned just don't chase campaign and don't chase Bobby Portis was a really good scorer last slate. So, I think he was in the pro spot in the winning lineup. I'm not 100% certain of that, but I just be careful where your selection is.
Okay. Cool. All right, guys. So leave some questions in the chat. We'll stay live for, you good for another maybe 10 minutes?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Let's see. All right. Sorry.
I'm pumped. 2 days not having a game is insane.
It sucks. It really, really sucks. Plus the fact that I was asking about the TBT contest for Draftkings, the basketball tournament. They said they're not going to have it this year, so that obviously a little bit disappointing. But we are going to get more basketball soon.
Olympics. I'm looking for it.
Yeah. So
kind of excited. Do you think USA's in trouble by? They won the exhibition game last night, but I think they're all right. I mean, they got KD, they got Beal, they got scores. They'll be fine.
I'm not worried about it. I think they'll be all right. It just, they haven't had a ton of time to practice, which I think actually is pretty important. They obviously are the most talented team. But yeah, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. So let's start it off with Ethan said Chris Paul and Chris Middleton or Drew Holiday and Devin Booker. That's a good question. I'm going to lean the first one. What about you?
I completely agree. I think I like Drew tonight, but I think out of all 4 of them, he's the one that could have a floor game. I think Booker is going to play well, but I don't think he's going to play better than Middleton. I like Paul Middleton tonight.
Okay, cool. And make sure, guys, you specify whether you're playing on FanDuel or DraftKings. It is kind of important. All right, so Brian asked CP3 or Middleton. It's a good question. I think it's really close on DraftKings. I think a small lean to Chris Paul. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, CP3 is going to have the ball in his hands a lot more, and I think it's close, like you said. I would tend to lead CP3 a little bit, but I think Middleton's going to have a strong game. So if you're playing the utility play, I mean, I think it's a tough call. I don't want to give you the wrong advice, but I would lean a little bit CP3, just because. Okay. Phoenix has to win this game. In my opinion, if Phoenix doesn't win this game, the series is tied 2-2. All the momentum's already shifted to the Bucks. A lot of people are like, well, it's tied series and they go home. I disagree. I think Phoenix, knows that they're in trouble if they lose this game.
I agree. I think Maybe a hot take here, but I think if the Bucks win this game, they're winning the series.
Yeah. Did you put any money on them?
Well, just not anymore. Again, I had that to begin the playoffs, but not anymore. I thought about it once they went down 2-0. It was really funny, right?
Yeah.
They go down 2-0, and I'm told, oh, the series is over. Bucks are done. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, the Bucks have been down 2-0 a couple times. So I like everyone overreacts after a couple of games and think it's like the series is over.
Yeah, I think Phoenix comes out and plays hard, but I think Milwaukee matches their effort.
Yeah. I agree with that. So more questions, guys. You can leave them in the chat. Sammy said, what's up, DK and Mike? What's going on? Who are y'all's favorite captain besides Giannis on DraftKings? Good question. So I think the other two guys I'm looking to are DeAndre Ayton, and then I would have a small lean to Holiday over Middleton as my second guy, but it's close there. So I think those are the other two guys I'm looking to. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I'd go DeAndre Ayton. I think he's a guy that, would get you leverage on the field more than a Holiday would. But I think Chris Middleton over Holiday for me. But I understand why you put Holiday there. Tonight, I feel like Holiday is going to have like a Booker type game. I mean, not 19 points as far as fantasy goes, but I mean, I think he's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to have the ceiling of the others.
Okay. Let's see. What else do we have here? All right, another good question here from Adam. He said, Drew Holiday and Cam Johnson or Middleton and Jeff Teague. So I'm going to go that Drew Holiday one. And the reason being is I think the upgrade from Jeff Teague to Cam Johnson is a pretty big upgrade. And I think Drew Holiday and Middleton are close for me. So I like the first one more. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah,
I mean, Teague's got to get like 15 to 20 points for that to work out. So, I mean, Cam is going to be on the floor quite a bit. Drew is going to be on the floor. He doesn't have the greatest ceiling in my opinion tonight. I don't think he's going to be one of the guys that, exceeds. But I do like Drew and Cam a little bit more than I do Middleton and Teague as a combo. That's strictly it, just as a combination.
Okay. Another good question here. Tommy asked, Captain Giannis with Drew and Teague or Captain Drew with Giannis and Pat Connaughton? It's close, right? I think that is really close. If I was building an optimal lineup, I think I would lean that Giannis one. I'm fine going Captain Holiday to get a little bit different in tournaments. But yeah, if we're talking just straight up, what is the best option? I think I still prefer the Captain Giannis one. I think even though, you have Teague in there, I think having Giannis as the captain is enough for me to have a small lean there. If we're talking like optimal, obviously the GPPs, I'm fine going the other route to get a little bit different.
Yeah, I think it just depends on his other star in the first one. Who you pairing with Giannis and Drew. So I'm a little bit concerned about, if he has another star that is going to be the right play. But I mean, the first one's obviously the lean. Just make sure you get the other star right. I wouldn't put like just be careful playing that.
Cool. All right. S4G asked Ayton, Cam Johnson, and PJ Tucker, or Chris Paul, Connaughton, and Torrey Craig? Another good question.
These are tough on the fly. I'll tell you, like I always laugh when I'm watching these live streams and I'm seeing you like think just like that. I'm like, man, that's tough.
I know. I think for me, it's going to be the first one. The reason being is you get that, two value plays I like in Connaughton and Tucker. So I think a small lean there to the first one, but very good question. Again, what do you think on these two combos?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking to DraftKings, like for sure, I'm going to lean the first one. I like the first choice better.
Okay. All right, let me scroll down some more. So Ray asked Cam Johnson or Pat Connaughton or PJ Tucker on DraftKings. Yeah, really close. Those are my top three values once again. Straight up, I think it's going to be Pat Connaughton for me. I think he will be the most popular, though, of this bunch. So if you want to use Tucker over Connaughton, I'm good at that, or even Cam Johnson. But straight up, it's going to be Pat Connaughton for me. If we're not talking about ownership, I think he would be my preferred option.
Yeah, this reminds me of the Lopez, Crowder, and Bridges question on the last live stream because I think they're all so close, and I think it can go any single way. But for me, I mean, I still like Cam Johnson tonight, and I think that he'll have a little bit more production than Pat Connaughton.
Okay. Let's see. Noah's asking us to look at his lineups. He's got Ayton, captain, Giannis, Drew, Booker, Craig, and Cam. Yeah, I like that as a contrarian lineup. Again, I think Booker's ownership is going to be pretty low. We were both not super high in him last slate. The reason I have some interest in him in this slate is I think the ownership will drop even farther. He was only 35% in the bigger tournament I think that's lower tonight. So the reason I like him is because it's hard to get him in, and I think it's going to result in low ownership. And Booker can still go out and get your 50 fancy points any single day. So I like that as contrarian lineup, but obviously Booker is not an optimal play at that price point. What do you think on this lineup for Noah?
Yeah, I mean, I think Noah has a great chance with this lineup just because I don't think Booker's going to have a lot of high ownership. So, I mean, I think if Drew has a good game and Booker, is in there having a good game too, then I think that those two have a chance to separate your lineup from anybody else.
Okay. Let's see. Bill asks, so he's got captain Booker with Chris Paul, Ayton, Giannis, Craig, and Forbes. Again, definitely very contrarian. I don't love the Forbes play. He could literally play 5 minutes tonight. So it's obviously you have a couple of risks here. One, Booker is going to be Booker and the captain alone, I think, will make your lineup different. But having Forbes in there too will definitely make it different. So at least for me, I think it's a little bit too contrarian for my liking. Thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it's too low at the bottom end. Like, I think it's going to be tough to have two guys that can have, bottom floor games like a Craig and Forbes, because we've seen Forbes have 2-3 points, even 0, and we've seen Craig have 3 points. So if you're only getting less than 10 points from those two both, I don't see it being the best.
So I'm fine doing that if it's Giannis to the captain, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean that works, but Booker, I just
Booker the captain. I think so. Like, I think Booker and the captain will make your lineup different. So I think it's a little bit too contrarian for me.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me scroll down a little bit more. We got a little bit of, I think, spam in here in the chat. Let's see.
Bring me on it, I'll go south. See that?
Wait, what?
I said you bring me on it, I'll go south.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see.
Is there any? Let me ask you this: Is there anybody that you think who are you fading tonight out of everybody? I think people like to hear that perspective.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good question. Once again, I'm fading Devin Booker. Okay. I think, again, I like him as a tournament play, but it's hard to get him in there with Giannis. So even though he's going to be low owned, and even though I like him as a contrarian play, he's not in my lineup. So he's like the high end guy that I am fading. If we're talking, other guys, again, I'm not in love with the mid range. I think I made that, pretty clear in this live stream that I don't love a lot of these guys, below Ayton, with Bridges, Crowder, Lopez, Portis, Campaign even. Not super high in any of those guys. If I had to pick one, it would be Crowder. But yeah, I think my two takes are, once again, I'm going that Booker fade. Again, could go wrong here, but it's just a little bit harder to get him in. And then number two, once again, I'm not very high on the mid-range.
Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. I completely
same question.
Yeah, I completely agree with your take on Booker that you don't feel sure about it because you never know because he's so shot dependent. And if CP3 has the ball in his hands a lot, he's going to do a lot, which is going to limit Booker's opportunities. But I think Booker, I'm worried to see a tweet from you here at halftime that night's over. I'm just worried that he's gonna have a good scoring night. But for me, my fade is going to be Holiday over anybody if I had to fade a superstar. Like I just worry about Drew Holiday more tonight, and I know that it's weird because last slate I loved him, and I thought that he was clearly above and beyond a Booker. But I just think Booker's going to have a little bit of a bounce back tonight.
Okay. Let's see. Picasso asks, "What's up, guys? Any love for Bridges tonight?" Not really. It's just he's at a price point where I have a really hard time getting to him. Too close in price to Ayton and those other stars, so I don't have a ton of interest, even though it's going to be low owned.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else do we have? We kind of went over this, Alex. Yeah, favorite captain. Yeah, besides Giannis, for me, it's probably Holiday or Ayton. And for Mike, I think it's Ayton and Middleton, right?
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. So Dom said, hey, I've been listening to NBA radio, and it's all talk and Booker bounce back. Do we think he's going crazy in the captain? Again, the upside is still there with Devin Booker, right? I think we both agree that the upside is there. He's just at a price point on DraftKings where it's a little bit more difficult to get to him. So, again, I think he's a fine GPP play, but, I'm not going there. And am I worried about it? Yeah, because he has a lot of upside. So definitely scared about fading Booker back-to-back games.
Yeah, let me clarify. Like, I think he's an easier fade on DraftKings than he is Fanduel. Fanduel, he's priced right with Chris Paul at 14. So I think everybody's going to go to Paul. So I think he's a good leverage play on Fanduel.
Okay. I like that. Tommy, I do remember this. DK, do you remember on Christmas when we played Jeff Teague and he became the Grinch? I do. What was that? Was someone out in Boston? 'Cause he was on the Celtics then. And I'm pretty sure like someone was out in Boston. Maybe Kemba was out and we all, gravitated to Teague and he just was a massive bust. So I do remember that, unfortunately. Let's see. Someone said Booker has bounced back every single time he shot that bad. He's the play tonight for the Suns. So yeah, we're definitely have some Booker love here.
And price makes it hard. That's the only problem because you got to expect him to outperform Middleton, outperform Paul. There's so many guys that he has to be better than.
Yeah. Let's see. Joel asked, Lopez season. Not really for me. He's got to be pretty productive in about 25 minutes or so. So I'm probably off Brook Lopez again. I know you had some interest in him last slate on Fanduel. It's basically impossible to get him on a Draftkings. Do you have any interest at that price?
The starting lineup just came out, and he's starting. I think where his price is at on both sites, especially Fanduel. I'm not playing him on Fanduel. Draftkings, I just think there's too many guys in the mid-tier that are tough to get to. So I'm not for playing him. I can see how it works for you, but for me, no.
All right, guys, winding down. Let's stay on for another minute or so here. Dirty Dan asked, Drew and Bobby Portis or Payne and Middleton DKGPP? That one's close for me. The reason I'm going to say the first one is because if the minutes are there for Portis, he's got more upside than Campaign. Better point per minute guy. So I would rather roll the dice in the first one and hope the minutes are there for Bobby Portis. Again, there's obviously a pretty big risk with him. But I think the upside's a little. If things go right, for both combos, I think the upside is a little bit higher on that first one. What do you think about these two pairings?
Yeah, I mean, if realistically you're putting 15 minutes from Portis and Payne, who's going to have better performance? Portis just does more. So even though, in my opinion, Drew's not the same play that Middleton is tonight, I think the combo version, I think you got to go Drew Portis.
Okay.
Just because the floor is going to be so different, I think, with Payne and Portis.
Yep. Agree with that. Kemper said, any interest in Bobby? Yeah, so I think he's playable. I really don't have a good read on his minutes. I think it's going to depend on how the game goes. And I think my take is if the Bucks fall behind early, that there's a chance he gets limited minutes because I think their best chance is that small ball lineup. If they're playing from ahead like we saw in Game 3, he can definitely play more minutes. We saw 18 minutes from him last game, so could go either way there with Portis. Again, if he plays close to 20 minutes again, there's a decent chance he will be in the winning lineup. So definitely have interest in Bobby Portis. I'm just not sure what his minutes are going to be in Game 4. I think it kind of depends on the game flow.
Just one take on Portis quick is, the last game, him and Jay Crowder kind of got into it. It got pretty chippy there at the end. I think it was like the third quarter or fourth quarter because I was laughing because I was like, yeah, Crowder's going to get ejected now and he's already done his damage. But just be careful of Bobby Portis with, that high energy. I think he's a good play, but just be careful because he might have too much emotion tonight. Because we saw it in the third game. He brought the emotion.
Yeah. He's the hype guy for sure. He's going to give you energy and great point per minute guy. So never an issue playing with Bobby Portis. I just think he's definitely a risk and he's not super cheap. If he was like $3K in this slate, I would be all in and probably Bobby Portis and just kind of hope he gets close to the same minutes. Again, at 5.4, a little bit more risk with that price point.
Okay.
All right, so I think we can probably wrap up here, guys. Appreciate everyone coming in and watching this live stream. Once again with Mike, I think we topped on about 250 concurrent viewers. Thank you to everyone who came in and liked the live stream. Again, that helps a lot. Thank you to all the super chatters. Again, very, very generous of you guys. And thank you to Mike. Mike, really appreciated having you on. Love the back and forth. Love talking some Fanduel too. So thanks again for coming on. And do you have any last minute things to say?
I just really appreciate the opportunity to be on here and fill the live stream up with you for 2 times in a row. So thank you. It means a lot. Don't take it for granted. Appreciate everybody's support. Thank you for everybody that liked and shared and did everything with the contest that we had to kind of get me on here. And I'm glad that all worked out for the 2 winners. So thank you, and let's enjoy the game tonight. Let's win some big money.
Yeah, well, let's win some money, and let's hope for a good game, competitive game. And I'm personally hoping for a Bucks win. I want a close series, and obviously I want them to pull it out at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And everybody that's on here, and even everybody that follows us, just let us know how that you did. I mean, we like to see it, and again, let us know what we did right, what we did wrong. And, we look forward to seeing it and sharing everything with you guys.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks again. Good luck tonight. Hope you guys all have a great night. Enjoy the game, and I'll see you guys back here for Game 5 on Saturday.
Thanks, guys.